Hi guys, Christoph the Polish Geek, and welcome to another movie review. A movie of a new zombie apocalypse movie 28 years later. And what do I think of the movie? The first thing I will say is that the first two 28 later movies, 28 days later and then 28 months later, those are movies I highly respect, and I did kind of was entertained as I was watching them, but they're never among my favorites because zombie apocalypse genre is not my go-to genre. In general, I can't really call myself a particular sucker for zombie apocalypse genres. If anything, they're probably among my least favorite actually. Don't know, just never really appealed to me. I have plenty of friends that very much love zombie apocalypse and all that, and have been bombarded by people who loved it so much, but it's just a genre that never particularly appealed to me. Don't know why. Just did not. But what do I think of 28 years later? Well, I do think that this is the movie that you've probably been seeing other reviewers already saying that will very much divide the fan base of the first two. There are some that are gonna be saying, oh, best movie in the franchise, including me actually. And then there are some who are gonna be saying, oh, I didn't like it at all, it sucks, so much different from the first two. And I can understand both perspectives. And when reviewers are saying that the movie only at first seems like it's gonna be another straightforward zombie flick, and then it turns to something completely different, they are right, and we'll get to it soon enough. Because the first thing I gotta say is that this is decidedly not the type of straight up survival zombie apocalypse flick as the first two. So if you're expecting that just with modern upgrade, then this is certainly not it. Quite the opposite. But that's actually my major thing why actually it became my favorite and why I ended up really liking it a lot. Because this movie focuses on what I truly care most about. Character development and character-driven stories. And this is a very, very character-driven story, which is why I actually ended up liking it. I will also say though that this movie doesn't seem to really have much of continuity with 28 months later. It's very much clear that the events of 28 days later very much happened, but this movie but it honestly felt like this movie very much completely disregarded the events of 28 months later. In many ways it felt like it kind of contradicted them. I know the creators said that 28 months later still very much happened, or 28 weeks later, don't remember what it was, but regardless, it certainly did feel like, although the creators claimed that the events of 28 weeks later, whatever, did happen, it just didn't feel like it at all. In fact, it felt like that 28 years later very much disregarded events of 28 months or 28 weeks later, whatever, but still doesn't change the fact that I didn't mind it all that much, because as I said, the first two movies are not among my favorites. I never particularly I do respect them, and I did like them as I watched them, but I would never go back watching them because again, they're not particularly movies I ever cared about. So I guess maybe that's largely the reason why I didn't care much for that retcon. But if you're any of the fans who are very disappointed, then I'm all with you. Trust me. If you're one of those fans that's upset about retconning the events of the sequel, then I'm with you and I support you. But I'm just personally telling you how I felt watching this movie, because I largely was even treating it as basically a standalone story, which it could be seen as that, because in many ways it did very much fill you in of what happened and all that, but it was also filmed in a way that you could completely enjoy the movie without even watching the first two. In fact, I think that the people who haven't seen the first two might be actually the ones that enjoy it the most, actually. Because, as the title says, 28 years later, and then there is this secluded village in the middle of the island, and the main character is this boy Spike, and then he had his father leave the island so that Spike could learn how to hunt zombies. And I gotta say, only first 20-30 minutes of the movie, I already did see the reviewers saying that the movie turns to completely something else later, so I was pretty ready for it anyway. But Yes, like at first it seems like it's gonna be like a typical zombie survival apocalypse of father and son trying to survive outside of their secluded island and son learning how to shoot zombies, but he learns it pretty quickly and then they return to the island and then because Spike's mother Ilsa is very sick, so Spike takes her out and then they decide to look for a doctor that will supposedly cure the mother. And then I have to say this is really where the movie starts being at its best for me because I really like the character development and the mother-son relationship between Spike and Ilsa. It's also fascinating and all that. And I think that's why it probably ended up being my favorite in the series and why I actually quite like the movie. Because really, again, as I said, the zombie apocalypse genre is not my particularly go-to genre, but what I really liked in this movie is how it very much was so character-driven, and that's really what was most interesting for me. Like Spike shooting with his bow and arrow and the zombies and all that. Well, I guess some cool action scenes, that's not really what interested me. The biggest draw was really character development and Spike's relationship with his mother, and then their character development, and then looking for the doctor that would supposedly cure the mother. And I also gotta say, another thing I really liked is the beautiful and spectacular views of the Scottish Highlands, because I consider the Scottish Highlands actually among the most beautiful and amazing views, and amazing landscape views, and this movie very much had that. So yes, the beautiful nature and visual landscapes and all that of Scottish Highland was also a huge highlight, and it was really amazing. Again, if you've been watching my channel, you know I have huge weakness to beautiful landscapes and visuals, and again, I really like the ones in this movie. And by the way, that's probably a really known fact, this movie was actually filmed entirely through iPhones, and that even makes it more interesting actually. Like, you could totally tell that the cinematography was actually quite different than it is in most regular movies. Like as I said, it was filmed on iPhones, and that kind of shows, especially that I myself have an iPhone actually. But the final thing I gotta talk about is that, spoiler alert, it ends on a gigantic cliffhanger. And by the way, I think that the ending might also very much divide the fans. Like, I won't specifically say what exactly happens in the ending, but I think that it was a pretty powerful and bittersweet ending that will certainly break the hearts of a lot of people. Like, it certainly did break mine, but also could really make you think actually. Like, I can totally see some people outright hating the ending, but other people actually really liking it and being challenged by it like I did. And most importantly, it does then end on a cliffhanger, which, because this movie is really a chapter 1 in a planned trilogy, and it very much shows. And it's not like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes last year, which was like, sure, it very much ended also on a cliffhanger, and it also very much was basically an intro to a much larger story. But in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes case, it felt more like they finished this one small story they were telling and then opening doors to a much bigger and larger story, while this felt very much like strictly a chapter 1 in a story they're already telling. So, and I am very much interested now in the sequels, because I have so many questions. Like, among the questions I have actually, and I'm not the only one actually, I'm noticing lots of people having that, and I am very much one of them, is for example about this doctor played amazingly by Ralph Fiennes. Like, this doctor, like, he's a really interesting character, but in all honesty, we don't learn really much about him. But I'm really hoping they are setting this up all for a sequel, because I really want to know more, and not just about the doctor, but in general, more about this world now and all that. But I think 28 years later is a really great zombie apocalypse, but first and foremost, it's a great character-driven story full of really likable and well-written characters. So, ultimately, do I recommend 28 Years Later? It depends. If you want a good, well-written, character-driven story taking place in the zombie apocalypse, then I think this is very much a movie for you. But if you just want a straight-up survival zombie apocalypse flick in the vein of the first two 28 later movies, then this might not actually be a movie for you, because it's very much not what the first two movies were, which are mostly just about straight-up survival zombie apocalypse flicks. This, as I said, is something different. This is very much strictly, first and foremost, a character-driven drama, which is why I liked it a lot. So, thank you guys for checking this movie review, and press the like button. Please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you then. Bye.